Imagine that right now, somewhere in the world, there is a man who cannot stop thinking about you. Your image haunts him throughout the day. Your name pops into his thoughts again and again, even when he is trying to focus on other things. He may deny it even to himself, but his body, his gestures, his very energy have already given him away. This man is emotionally involved with you much more strongly than you might assume, but you do not notice it. Why? Because since childhood, we have been taught to pay attention to words and loud promises, whereas true masculine desire manifests itself quite differently through a subtle, almost invisible code of behavior. Most women simply do not recognize it. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists in history, made an astonishing discovery about the nature of male psychology. He found that when a man truly falls in love, his subconscious activates a special state that is impossible to control with conscious effort. This state manifests itself through many small but very significant signals, from peculiarities of gaze to certain patterns of behavior. The most striking thing is that these signals cannot be faked because they come from the deepest layers of the psyche. The paradox is that, according to research, about 93% of women completely misinterpret these signs of attention. Some mistake sincere interest for temporary infatuation. Others do not notice obvious manifestations of feelings from a man who could become their destiny. All because we were not taught to understand this special language of the male subconscious. Remember moments when you felt a strange discrepancy between a man's words and his actions. For example, when he claimed you were interesting to him, but his behavior suggested otherwise. Or conversely, when he never spoke about his feelings directly, but there was clearly some inexplicable connection between you. This was not your imagination. Your subconscious was picking up on those very signals that your conscious mind could not process. What I want to reveal to you today is not just another set of seduction tips or manipulative techniques. It is a deep understanding of what is actually happening in a man's mind when he meets a woman who awakens in him not just physical attraction, but something much more significant. That very irrational connection makes him change at a deep level. There is a clear set of signs, a special system of signals manifesting in gestures, glances, manner of behavior, and even in how a man is silent. When you learn to recognize these signs, you will never again doubt a man's true intentions. The main problem of modern women in relationships is that they look for confirmation of feelings in the wrong place. Most expect loud confessions, expensive gifts, and public demonstrations of attention, whereas the real evidence of male attachment lies in completely different, much more subtle manifestations. Jung described in his works the so-called archetype of the lover, a special psychic structure that exists in the subconscious of every man. When this archetype is activated under the influence of strong feelings, it completely changes the behavior of the man, and he himself often cannot explain these changes. It is something more than just attraction. It is a deep transformation that cannot be simulated. The difference between a man who feels only superficial interest in you and one who is truly emotionally involved is colossal. The first will disappear at the first difficulties. The second will only get closer. One will keep you in a state of uncertainty. The other will create a sense of stability and security. A superficially interested man thinks only about the present moment, whereas a truly loving man already subconsciously imagines you in his future. And all these differences manifest through specific, quite observable behavioral patterns. These patterns have been identified in the course of many years of research into the human psyche. Before we move on to the analysis of these specific signals, I want you to perform a simple action. Write the word understanding in the comments. This is not just a formality. When you do this, your brain will unconsciously switch to a special mode of information perception. It is like a key that will open the door to a new level of awareness of male psychology. Those who are truly ready for this knowledge are already beginning to notice how their perception of relationships is gradually changing. Now let us figure out why some women, like magnets, attract serious and deep relationships, while others spin for years in a series of superficial connections. The answer lies not in appearance, not in the manner of dressing, or even in what and how a woman speaks. It is all about her ability, often unconscious, to recognize and correctly interpret those very signals that come from the male subconscious when he is truly in love. Jung, in the course of his research, came to the conclusion that male behavior in the sphere of relationships is governed by forces far beyond his conscious control. In the psyche of every man, there are so-called archetypes, ancient inherited patterns of behavior formed over millennia of human evolution. One of the most powerful among them is precisely the archetype of the lover. When it is activated, a man experiences not just ordinary attraction, he experiences a deep, almost mystical connection with the other. The reason why men so often hide their true feelings lies in the peculiarities of their upbringing. From early childhood, boys are instilled with the idea that showing emotions means showing weakness. Men don't cry, be strong. Don't show that you're hurt. These attitudes create a powerful barrier between what a man really feels and what he is willing to express in words. However, Jung made an amazing discovery. The body never lies. While the conscious mind is trying to control words and external manifestations, the subconscious inevitably betrays itself through body language, micro gestures, behavioral features, and many other nonverbal signals. Modern neurobiological research has fully confirmed Jung's conjectures. When a man experiences true, deep love, his brain begins to produce a unique cocktail of neurotransmitters: dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These substances do not just create a feeling of euphoria, they directly affect behavior, forming stable patterns that a man is unable to consciously control. This is why in love, more than anywhere else, the principle works. Words can lie, but actions never. When a man experiences a true emotional attachment to you, amazing biochemical processes are triggered in his brain that he is not able to control consciously. Your presence begins to be associated with the release of dopamine, the very neurotransmitter that is responsible for the feeling of pleasure and motivation. This creates a kind of chemical dependence when he subconsciously strives to be near you, even if he rationally understands that he should be doing other things. This is not a conscious choice, it is a deep biological reaction formed over millennia of evolution. But even more interesting processes occur with oxytocin, which is often called the attachment hormone. This amazing neurotransmitter is released during moments of physical and emotional intimacy, creating between you literally a biochemical connection at the cellular level. This explains that very protective behavior that truly loving men begin to exhibit. They unconsciously strive to protect you, take care of your comfort, be there in important moments. And all this is not because it is accepted or because they want to impress, but because their own biology dictates to them such a model of behavior. The difference between simple sexual attraction and deep emotional attachment is like the difference between a spark and a steady flame. Physical attraction arises instantly. It is based on external factors and fleeting chemistry. But true emotional connection is formed gradually, layer by layer, manifesting itself in those very small, almost imperceptible behavioral patterns that most people do not even notice. A man can experience sexual desire for many women at the same time. But when he is truly emotionally involved in one, all his focus of attention changes dramatically. He begins to unconsciously include you in his long-term plans, his decisions, even those that at first glance have no relation to relationships, begin to be adjusted, taking into account your presence in his life. Carl Jung in his work spoke of an amazing phenomenon that he called synchronicity, those very strange coincidences that seem non-random. When there is a deep subconscious connection between two people, when a man is emotionally involved, these synchronicities begin to manifest in the most unexpected moments. He may call you precisely at the moment when you were thinking about him. You may discover amazing coincidences in your tastes, preferences, or even past experiences. Your life rhythms inexplicably begin to coincide as if some invisible force is synchronizing your paths. But most women miss these subtle signs, expecting loud declarations of love, expensive gifts, or public demonstrations of feelings. In reality, the true attachment of a man manifests itself in completely different, much more modest, but no less significant manifestations. It may be a glance that lingers on your face for a second longer than usual. It may be a phrase said by him as if in response to your unspoken thoughts. It may be those very small details about you that he remembers for months and years, although you yourself have already forgotten that you once told him about it. Jung introduced into psychology the important concept of anima, that very ideal female image that exists in the subconscious of every man. When he meets a woman who corresponds to this internal image, something amazing happens. He begins to feel as if he has found a lost part of himself, as if he has returned to its place a missing element of the mosaic of his personality. This connection is much deeper than just logical compatibility or social correspondence. It is a real resonance at the level of the soul, And what is most interesting is that often a man cannot even express this feeling in words. Therefore, he begins to show it through actions, gestures, those very nonverbal signals that speak louder than any vows. A person's eyes are truly the mirror of the soul, and when a man is truly in love, his gaze changes dramatically. It is no longer just a look of desire, although it may be present. It is a look of deep recognition, as if he sees not only your external shell, but your very essence. Modern science has confirmed what Jung suspected. When we are near someone we feel deeply emotionally attached to, our pupils involuntarily dilate, and this process is controlled by the autonomic nervous system, which means it cannot be faked consciously. A man in love will instinctively seek your gaze even in a crowded room, and if you watch him when he thinks you cannot see, you may notice how he literally studies every feature of yours, every movement, as if trying to capture you in memory from all possible angles. Another important sign is how a man begins to rebuild his life around you, and often without even realizing it. His time and space are gradually organized, taking into account your presence. He stops disappearing for days without explanation. His employment is no longer an ironclad argument against communication. Even with the busiest schedule, he finds ways to be near because his subconscious already perceives you as part of his life in the physical space. This manifests in how his body literally gravitates toward you in conversation. His legs unconsciously turn towards you. He reduces the distance between you, as if he is drawn by an invisible force. His reaction to your accidental touches becomes much more emotional than to the touch of other people. But the most important, the most irrefutable sign of true attachment is the gradual replacement in his lexicon of the pronoun I with we. His plans, even those concerning the distant future, automatically begin to include you. In conversations about prospects and goals, you suddenly discover that you have become part of his picture of the world. He begins to be interested in your opinion on issues that he previously decided exclusively on his own. And all this happens not because he decided to, but because his subconscious has already recognized you as part of his life. This language of the subconscious cannot be faked. Its signals cannot be simulated for long. Words can be selected, actions can be calculated, but those unconscious reactions that come from the depths of the psyche will always betray true relationships. When a man is truly in love, his entire mental and physiological system begins to work in unison with your presence. And if you learn to read these signs, you will never fall into the trap of relationships without a future. These chemical reactions in the male body occur completely involuntarily, manifesting through subtle but incredibly eloquent physiological changes. When a man experiences true attachment, his body begins to speak in a language that is much more truthful than any words. Pupil dilation at your appearance is not just a reaction to light, but an unconscious desire to absorb more of your image. A slight blush suddenly appearing on his cheeks testifies to an increase in body temperature, a sure sign of emotional arousal. Changes in breathing, almost imperceptible from the side but clearly recorded in close contact, speak of internal excitement that he may not even fully realize himself. Particular attention should be paid to the third, perhaps the most indicative sign, the amazing selectivity of his memory. Carl Jung in his research discovered an amazing phenomenon. Our subconscious has its own system of priorities that determines what information to save and what to discard. When a man is truly emotionally involved, his brain begins to work like a highly sensitive radar, capturing and recording the smallest details associated with the object of his affection. He can reproduce with surprising accuracy a conversation that took place between you several weeks ago. Moreover, he will remember not only the essence of the conversation, but also such nuances as your intonation at certain moments or your facial expression when you talked about something important. His memory captures and saves the smallest details of your preferences, from your favorite tea you once mentioned casually to how you usually tie your scarf in winter. When you change something in your look, a new hairstyle, a different shade of lipstick, an unusual accessory, he notices it instantly, even if he does not outwardly emphasize this observation. All these details do not pass through the filter of his conscious attention. They immediately fall into a special section of memory that is activated when a person becomes emotionally significant. Especially revealing are moments when he remembers something that you yourself have already managed to forget. Some dream you shared a month ago, a fleeting fear expressed in passing, or a childhood story told in between things. This is not the result of conscious efforts to memorize. It is a natural manifestation of the fact that you have taken a special place in his psychic reality. The fourth sign is the ability to show emotional vulnerability, which represents a real breakthrough in male behavior, considering how boys are brought up in our society. From early childhood, men are taught to hide their weaknesses, suppress displays of sensitivity, and demonstrate composure in any circumstances. When such a man begins to gradually open up to a woman, share his fears and doubts, and talk about dreams that he is afraid to voice even to himself, it testifies to the deepest level of trust. His revelations may manifest not in the form of loud confessions or emotional scenes, but through small but very significant details. When he talks about his insecurity in professional matters, shares concerns about his relationship with his parents, or admits to strange, as it seems to him, preferences or habits, each such confession is a step over an internal barrier that he has been building for years to protect himself from the surrounding world. And if he takes these steps towards you, it means that in his internal universe, you have occupied a place that previously remained vacant. The fifth sign, natural inclusion of you in his social circle, manifests in how gradually but steadily you become part of all spheres of his life. Jung paid special attention to the fact that true attachment always strives for integration, for overcoming the boundaries between different aspects of existence. Such a man does not keep you in a separate cell intended only for intimate meetings. He introduces you to his friends not because it is customary, but because he sincerely wants those who are important to him to know the person who has become so significant to him. He talks about you and his family, and he does it with a special intonation that immediately makes it clear that you are not just another girl for him. He includes you in holidays and traditional gatherings because his inner world has already ceased to perceive these events without your presence as complete. At the same time, he does not just formally introduce you to his environment. He talks about you with that special pride that appears when a person has found something truly valuable and wants it to be appreciated by other significant people. The sixth sign, projection of the future, is possibly one of the most reliable indicators of the seriousness of intentions. Our perception of time changes dramatically when we establish a deep emotional connection. The future ceases to be an abstract concept and begins to be filled with concrete images in which the person who has become dear to us is present. A man truly involved in a relationship does not just make plans. He naturally includes you in his perspective. This manifests not in loud declarations or bombastic promises, but in small things that he does not even always realize are significant. He may discuss events that will occur in 6 months or a year, automatically assuming your participation, talk about how you will travel together to a certain place, although there were no specific agreements about it, mention details that make sense only if you remain part of his life in the long term. All this is not an attempt to impress or secure you in the relationship, but the natural thinking of a person for whom you have already become an integral element of the picture of the future. The seventh sign, the instinctive need to protect, goes back to the depths of male psychology. Jung called this the protector complex, a special psychic mechanism that is activated when a man meets someone his subconscious identifies as a value requiring protection. This has nothing to do with control or restriction of freedom. It is about genuine care that manifests itself in hundreds of almost imperceptible but very significant details. He does not just ask if you got home safe. He is genuinely worried if you are delayed without warning. He notices the slightest changes in your mood, even when you yourself are not yet aware that something is wrong. He anticipates your needs, and he does this unobtrusively, without demonstrating his feats. His care is not a showy gesture, but a natural need arising from the deep feeling that your well-being has become part of his system of values. At the same time, he maintains respect for your independence. His protection does not suffocate, but creates a sense of reliable support. The eighth and possibly the most important sign, constancy over time, becomes the criterion that allows you to distinguish true feelings from temporary infatuation. As Jung noted, a person can play a role, adjust, or hide their true intentions for a certain period, but sooner or later their true essence will inevitably manifest. A man experiencing deep attachment demonstrates amazing stability in his attitude. There are none of those sharp fluctuations in his behavior that are characteristic of superficial connections, periods of fervent attention alternating with inexplicable detachments. He does not disappear for several days without explaining the reasons. does not make you guess about his mood or intentions. His behavior may change depending on the circumstances, but the basis remains unchanged. You always feel that you occupy an important place in his life. This constancy is not a sign of boredom or lack of passion, but evidence that his feelings have stood the test of time and do not depend on momentary circumstances or moods. All these signs taken together create a unique picture that leaves no doubt about the seriousness of his intentions and the depth of feelings. But the most important thing is to understand that such an attitude is not something that can be simulated or faked for a long time. These manifestations come from the depths of the psyche. They are a reflection of those processes that occur beyond the boundaries of conscious control. When you are faced with such an attitude, you are dealing not with a carefully thought out strategy or game, but with a genuine manifestation of human nature, with what makes us capable of deep and true connections. And if you have happened to become the object of such an attitude, it is not just luck or a coincidence. It is evidence that there is something in you that has resonated in the depths of another human soul, something that has awakened in another person the ability to love truly, without reservations and conditions. Realize how exceptional such a deep connection is. Many people live their whole lives without experiencing anything like it. What is now in your hands is not just physical attraction or superficial compatibility. It is a resonance at the level of the soul, what Jung called the meeting of two subconscious minds. But if in your life there is a person who does not show these signs or demonstrates them only occasionally, it is time for honest reflection. I do not urge you to immediately break off the relationship, but it is important to understand the fundamental difference between a fleeting infatuation and genuine emotional involvement. Too many women spend precious years hoping that a man experiencing only superficial interest will one day awaken to deeper feelings. Jung teaches us that true love does not require coercion. It arises naturally when there is genuine subconscious compatibility. Perhaps you will ask, what if he shows only some of these signs? Jung believed that true love affects all aspects of behavior, but each person expresses emotions in their own way. The main thing is constancy over time and the authenticity of these manifestations. One sincere gesture is worth more than 1,000 beautiful words or contrived actions. Look at your life. How many times have you ignored your inner voice, doubting a man's true feelings only because he said the right words? How many times have you believed promises that were not supported by actions? The knowledge I have shared guarantees you will no longer be deceived by empty words or hopes that he will one day show true attachment. The truth that Jung discovered and that I am passing on to you is simple. A man who truly loves does not need persuasion to be there, show care, or demonstrate reliability. He does it naturally, driven by subconscious forces more, but this knowledge also imposes responsibility. If you see these signs in a man, it is extremely important to respond to him with the same authenticity. Jung believed that true relationships are a dance of two people fully opening up to each other. If a man demonstrates sincere vulnerability, openness, and devotion, and you, due to fears or past experiences, keep emotional barriers, this precious connection can be lost. Awareness of these signs gives incredible freedom. You will no longer have to guess whether you are correctly interpreting a man's feelings. You will cease to depend on words and promises. You will gain unshakable confidence in your ability to distinguish fleeting interest from true love. This understanding completely eliminates manipulation and psychological games from relationships. When you recognize a truly involved man, you will not need to check his feelings, provoke jealousy, or use tricks to keep his interest. You can simply be yourself, knowing that the connection is real and does not require strategies for its preservation. Moreover, this knowledge protects your heart. Think how many disappointments could have been avoided if all women could recognize these signs from the very beginning. How much time and emotional energy is spent on relationships that are initially devoid of the potential for depth and longevity. Jung considered meeting a person with whom we have a genuine connection to be one of the most transformative experiences in human life. It is not only about romance or companionship, it is an opportunity for personal growth, spiritual evolution, and realization of our highest potential. When a man demonstrates these 8 signs, he is not just saying, "I love you." He is offering a joint journey to mutual self-knowledge and transformation. We have come to the end of this deep study of the male subconscious and love. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you noticed any of these 8 signs in the behavior of a man in your life, or perhaps their absence in someone who claimed to love you? Share your experience in the comments. Your story can become a beacon for other women facing the same doubts as you once did. If this video has opened your eyes to a new perspective on relationships, do not keep the knowledge to yourself. Share it with friends who may be misinterpreting male signals or investing their souls in those who are capable only of superficial interest. Sometimes one grain of information can save years of suffering and misunderstanding. Give it a like so that this knowledge, based on the research of Carl Jung, reaches more women. Your simple gesture can help others find answers to the riddles of male behavior and true love. And if this video has awakened your interest in how our minds work when we fall in love, do not miss our next video, People Fall in Love with You for Only Two Reasons, Carl Jung. In it, I reveal two subconscious forces that determine why some people feel an irresistible attraction to you, while others remain indifferent. This is the perfect complement to deepen your understanding of the mechanisms of love and attraction. Click on the pop-up card to watch it right now.